Okay, welcome to CP368 Productions. You have another Microsoft Paint drawing. I don't think I need to tell you what that is. And next video on the layout we'll have another incarnation of that locomotive. Go to the Finger Lakes Northern history, which the history of it starts in 1860. Now I've heard that there actually was a steel mill in Rochester, but according to this history, there wasn't. Working through the years, they were formed as a joint operation, and the tracks from just beyond Farmington Yard, like where the Y is that I showed in the track plan, beyond the Farmington Yard, that where we joined the PRR Elmira branch, which I had in the history. It took over because the Elmira branch went right up through there, went up through Canandaigua, went right up through there. So I have it taking that over when they abandoned the Elmira branch up that far. Then we have the 210 track yard in Macedon. They handle all interchange traffic in the New York Central. And this was just to freeing up space, because it started out all interchanging one place, and then as the years went on, they upgraded yards or built new yards. They handle interchange in other places, so Canandaigua or Farmington wasn't being overworked. Then we have a little bit of history of the fictional steel mill that will be served. Then we have, in 1981, they started acquiring some Conrail C430s. Now, in this, I don't have them repainted. I probably will end up doing that because everything in the Finger Lakes Northern is going to be completely separate. It's not going to be controlled by the same system it's both going to be NCE, but it's not going to be the same exact system. They're going to be completely separate power systems. So I can have locomotives like 3000, like FLN 3000 operating at the same time as BPRR 3000 on a lower deck. So a lot of these locomotives, I don't have them repainted, but they will actually be repainted. And the SD35s, now they skipped 3504. That was because there was a 3504 in lower deck. So now there will be 3500 to 3507, I believe it is. Yeah. Because what would be 3509 will fill a space between there. And we have GP35s now. Wilmer did a video asking if you have any patriotic themed locomotives. Now, my plan is that the Finger Lakes Northern acquired a bunch of, or at least 2 or 3 of the bicentennial locomotives that had eventually been scrapped. And they repainted them into their bicentennial paint scheme and operate them as their own locomotives. Sioux GP35 1776 is one of them. It was repainted as Sioux 727. It was retired in 1987 or around there, and I have the Finger Lakes Northern having picked it up in 1987, repainted it into the bicentennial paint scheme, and it will be on the Finger Lakes Northern running as Sioux 1776 with a little FLN Diamond Herald somewhere on it, where it's a little inconspicuous. And through the years they acquire more, and then in 2020 they're going to be working on buying some SD80 Max Dash 8s and SD70M Dash 2s to use on probably on the heavy trains, like the coal trains, and they'd be equipped with positive train control so that they could run so they would be the units running on the unit trains. They would be put on the empties, taken to where they're loaded, and brought back. And so the other power, the SD45s, SD42-2s, and SD40-2s and such, would remain for the 200 series trains, which we'll get to what those are right now after explaining this. Now this is the roster as it developed over the years. Now this, of course, is all going to change with how I'm going to be doing the power system for it. But it just shows when things were, how the roster changed in different years. Here we have the train list. 100 series is unit trains. There's 10 of them, and those are definite going to stay. All the manifest transfers, the manifest trains, the locals. Not included in here is switch crews, because I don't think I'll have them actually have a number. They might, but intermodal trains are possibly, there's 26 manifest transfers and locals. Then we have 10 intermodal trains and mixed intermodal such trains that might be included, might not. Depends on if I do the intermodal terminal. I'm thinking about not doing an intermodal terminal in Manchester, the Manchester branch. Then you have the excursions, and then you have the industry list. There's 14 excursions. The industry's work in progress. I haven't figured out exactly what I'm going to do on that. The locomotive roster, that I'm working on from the other rosters, getting it together, and then eventually I'm going to decide what locomotives I'm going to repaint, I'm going to have in their paint. There's 1776. Those I'm probably going to have repainted, because I'm going to have a lot of power with the lower decks. I'm going to have a lot of power in Sioux and CP paint, so they were just not renumbered because the numbers that they would be clash with numbers from the lower decks. But since it's going to be completely separated, and I'm not going to have to worry about running them at the same time, I can renumber like the GP9 to 1750 and the GP35s to either the 3500 series, like the SD35s were, like the Conrail SD35s were when they were acquired, or the 2500 series. And the C430s will probably get renumbered to the 3000 series, the SD9s to the 1750 series, and so on. This Deck 4 is a long way off. It's going to be the last thing built because it's on top of everything else. And I'm not even sure if I'm going to be able to do it. It's going to take a lot of money, and a lot of money to build the first deck, let alone the other three. And scenery's not that expensive, lumber's not that expensive, but the rolling stock, as everybody watching this video who knows about model railroads knows, the rolling stock is not cheap, and I do not have that much money. So I don't know how long it's going to take me to even get enough to run a train, more than 3 cars. But don't have that much money for something. Don't have enough money. Definitely don't have enough money for a project like this. But it's what I want to do, and Lord worked out for us to get this house cheap. So He'll work out somehow for me to fill the space that He provided with the model railroad that I wanted to build for years. So I'm not worried about it. I'll build it as I can, and if it never gets completed, I'll at least done something on it eventually. I mean, right now the roof still needs to be done, and I still have to clean out the space, and that has to wait until after the roof is done and the dumpster dumpsters here for the roof, and then I can throw stuff, the junk from the second floor and the first floor into the dumpster, and then the barn can be dried out, or all the water damage, and it can be repaired and finished, and heat put in, and electricity redone, and then I can start working and building the model railroad. And that's unfortunately probably 2 or 3 years away, but it's in the foreseeable future that I can start on it, and money will come in time. And the next intro will be either the trains for the rest of the layout, or the locomotives for it. I will explain more on those in that video. CP368 Productions, signing off.